Guys, stop for a minute. Take a look at your wallet. Now, your wallet says a lot about you. I just want to ask, is it time for an upgrade? Our friends at Ridge are here to help you step up your wallet game. Their incredible wallet is light, sleek, and industrial. It doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge out of your back pocket. It slips into your front pocket. Ridge wallets hold up to 12 cards, plus all the cash that you need. You can choose from over 30 colors and styles. That includes carbon fiber and burnt titanium. It's the best wallet you can buy. You don't just have to take my word for it, because there's over 40,000 5-star reviews. I was skeptical at first, but once I tried it, I never went back to my old wallet, and I'm confident that you're going to love it too. But guess what? No pressure. Test it out for 45 days. If you don't love it, send it back. You get a full refund. If you decide to keep it, and I really think you will, it comes with a lifetime warranty. Go to ridge.com/Chael or just click on the link below. That's going to get you 10% off plus free worldwide shipping and returns. There's some pushback on Jon Jones being nominated for an ESPY. And I got to tell you, because there's things that are called a standard of an industry, right? There's an industry expectation and an industry precedence, and there's an industry prestige in all industries. In sport, ESPY is king. So to be nominated really is a great honor. And Jon gets nominated. Daniel Cormier spoke on this. Many people have spoke on this. Most recent was Daniel. And Daniel said, no, I don't think he should be there. Make sure that you understand how ESPY works. It's for a year. So by example, you'd have a 2022 ESPY, which would lead you to believe. Now, there's not an actual criteria. Guys, you got to hear me out on this. There's not an actual criteria that's posted that I had the ability to find, and I work for the company. But when it's called 2022, we, the audience, assume it means for the work done in 2022. And by the way, whatever that calendar year is, however that calendar year works, this might be the 2023 and they're already starting. I mean, Jon Jones fought in March of this year. Don't think you have to correct me on the details. I'm just trying to make a point that there is some things that us as the audience assume. And I bring that to you because I'll use an example of football with the flags. Right? I mean, you see how they do that? They get to a football game. Hey, we need a flag guy. You raise your hand and no one else, they'll put you in. The ball goes down and you move. I'm trying to say the chain, not the flag. You move the chain. And for sure it's off. For sure you're not right. How would you be? Right by what? Right by a foot, by an inch, by a guesstimate, by a centimeter? No, of course you're not right. But you move the chain. You get an honest guy. The number one thing that you want in any kind of officiating or judging of sport is consistency, even in front of being right. If they're consistent, they'll do 2 points when it should have been 3, but they'll go 2 points if the other team does it as well instead of 3, just by example. And the theory works. Over the course of a game, where I admit we're up or we're getting close, but then we're going to do it for the other team. We're going to get close. Over the course of the game, it works out. There's a reason. I mean, there's never been a protest on the chains. For you non-football fans, you'll be thinking, gosh, he must have said something wrong there. No, it's no more specific than that. Even with instant replay and everything else, wherever they put the chain and push it down, that becomes the official mark. And I just share with you that at least in theory, over time, there hasn't been a pushback. There hasn't been a pushback because it does work. Now, where am I going with this? Jon Jones has been slighted before. That's where I'm going with this. Jon Jones has been overlooked before, particularly when it was somebody else's opinion. When the outcome is going to come down to Jon Jones taking his shirt off and going mano a mano, he handles it and he doesn't leave you any room. But there has been times within public opinion he has been slighted. I really do feel that way. I think I'm one of Jon's most notable critics. But I do feel an integrity to tell a story the way that it happened. And I'll just give you a great example. Jon Jones was ranked number 1. Pound for pound. He was ranked number 1. He didn't lose. Nobody beat him. And rankings came out one Tuesday at 9 a.m. and Khabib was ranked 1. Jon was down to 2. And Jon fought for himself. Jon came out and fought that ranking and that publication more, with more energy, more vigor, and more passion than he has ever promoted a fight. And I appreciated it. I gained a respect, in fact. That's a big word to use. Not respect, by the way, that's a broad, but respect. Because I saw that it matters to him, and I didn't know if it did. Jon Jones is a lot like the character in Good Will Hunting, that he could just play. He could walk in and he could just do it. And if you have a skill like that, I don't. You guys probably don't either at anything. But I've seen what appears to be people taking it for granted. And when Jon fought Khabib head to head, did not care about the backlash, did not care that this was the most popular Muslim athlete alive. Didn't care. He did not lose. He was ranked number 1. He did not get beat. And Jon's argument, while Jon not being as liked as Khabib, which is why it went to Khabib, Jon's argument should have held up. He was ranked number 1 and he didn't get beat. You didn't put Khabib at number 1, except for the reason that he has to be. Do you guys remember this? Maybe I'm taking some things for granted. Khabib beats Justin Gaethje. He retired 29-0. We think he's going to 30, 29. Spend time with mom, spend time with the family. I mean, he's out. And he says, guys, I've never had a lot of experiences and achieved a lot of goals, but I've never been ranked number 1 pound for pound. Please rank me number 1. This week, right now, this is the only opportunity you have to do it based on what I just showed you here. And the reason that statement was so true is because he retired. Nobody gets to retire and then take a higher ranking. So Khabib laid his case out, which was actually to just be polite and ask for it, but they actually did it. And Jon said, man, that ain't the way this works. Jon was right. Jon was 1,000,000% right. And I don't begrudge that one moment. I offer you that moment because I think it's one that you would remember. And I also feel that that one moment is symbolic of several moments in Jon's career where the only way to beat him was the power of the pin. We put every badass we could find in front of him. We just couldn't get it done. We couldn't even get it to the judges to screw him over. Am I right? When you talk about somebody not being popular, there's nothing more unfair in life than people judging people. There's nothing to create controversy quite like that. We couldn't even get to that spot because Jon was cleaning these guys up and getting them out of there. I mean, I'm just sharing for you that if you do look at the chains in football, and you do look at you look at the body of work, which in that example is a game, it's 4 quarters. But when you look at the body of work, since we don't have seasons in this sport, it's all one moving secular event. I think Jon should be nominated for the ESPY. Now, if you want to look at what he actually accomplished, and see, that's another thing, and I got to be a jerk about this. I hide being a dick by saying I'm critical. I'm critical is a nice way. I'm being a dick about it. I get it, but if we're telling the story the way it happened, I mean, there was a lot of things that night. There was things that were dangerous to Jon's career that happened that night. Ronda Rousey lost. She was a 7-1 favorite. 44,000 people live in Australia. Do you know how big that is, what I just said? 44,000 people came to see that fight against Americans. They took 2 Americans And they sold 44,000 tickets in a different country. Think of that. Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey. They deserve a lot of credit for that. Ronda lost. It was an upset. It's not that kick that bit her in the ass. It wasn't the skill of Holly Holm. It wasn't the game planning. Coach Wink and Coach Jackson. What bit Ronda in the ass that night is the previous 5 girls couldn't defend themselves for more than a minute. And she was getting them in for there. And her experience and her expectation through living it was this is easy. I have a good frame of reference for how deep I'm going to have to dig because I've done it and I've done it again, I've done it again, I've done it again, and I've done it again. And I have to dig very deep. So when the match turned out to be harder than she thought it was going to be, all of a sudden walking into that straight right was a little easier. All of a sudden dipping and getting head in the kick. It's one of these things. But see, I bring that to you because Jon Jones, it's real imperative that he understand this. If Jon Jones thinks that with his time off and the pull-ups and the creatine, I mean, if he thinks with like the changing of his body and he kind of sells himself, hey, rest was good for me and, I got a new team, I'll get some new advice and I've really grown as a fighter. If he sells himself on that, which would be easy considering the result, he's in big trouble. He's in big trouble. That is not indignant of what happened. Jon, not only that night, I want to pick on Ciryl. I don't kick someone when they're down. Ciryl Gane is handsome. He's young. He's rich. Got a beautiful record. He's about to main event in his home right in Paris. Ciryl Gane has everything going his way. He can take a little bit of lumps from old Chael. Ciryl Gane was not the first choice. You guys all know that. Ciryl Gane was not the second choice. See, that's where it starts to get interesting. So then you go, well, okay, he was the third choice. Are you sure about that? No one's told us that. We know he wasn't the first choice. That was Ngannou. We know he wasn't the second choice. That was Stipe. We don't know that he was third. We don't know that somebody else and another didn't get called, didn't get asked, didn't get looked after, and whatever didn't line up, and Ciryl had the courage to do it. We don't know that he was third. When that fight came out, it was announced on accident, if you'll recall, by T-Mobile through their marketing department. They put out this beautiful billboard. It was very, very well done and very effective. It was just 3 hours too early, if you guys recall that. Many of us thought it was an error. Many of us thought it was an error. We saw what was done, and we know what kind of work it takes to get that done, and we know the digital artwork, and we know the approval that you need. But Ciryl didn't make any kind of sense. So just in that regard, we thought, well, a mistake was made. Those two aren't going to fight. I mean, that's true. Just to take you back to that day, Ciryl had won his previous fight, barely, but he did win it. But he lost the one before that. He was 1-1 in his last 2. And the match, but I'm talking about the ESPY here. I'm not trying to give Ciryl a hard time. I'm trying to talk about getting nominated for an ESPY. It doesn't matter what you did. It matters who you did it with. We can all agree on that. Well, not here. They put a belt up. Everybody's kind of forgotten. Most of you needed the refresher I just gave you. Most of you needed me to remind you he wasn't 1, he wasn't 2, and we've never been told he was 3. We know he wasn't 1 and 2, so we assume that he was 3, and it's a very relevant point. And when I go back to Jon, needed to understand that match, and this was not a display of I've gotten so much better, and I'm so good. It wasn't that. Take, for example, the takedown that Jon Jones had. That wasn't a move. There was nobody more surprised that Ciryl Gane, who 1 year prior had a beautiful stat that came out on ESPN and said he spent 0 time on the ground. He had never taken himself there. He'd never fallen down. He'd never been knocked down. The opponent didn't force him into that position. He'd never been on the ground. It was a huge, whoa, we got a kickboxer, a damn good kickboxer. Nobody, all the way to a championship. Ciryl was champion. Nobody can take down. And then Jon Jones goes out and he does it very easily. I mean, I'm just sharing for you. That wasn't a move. That was fear. That was, oh my God, that was fear. Nobody was more surprised to be on top of Ciryl in that moment than Jon Jones, because he knew that wasn't a move. Jon never planned for that to work. And Jon was in pretty good position. I mean, I got to say, he kind of had his hands in a good spot. Got a natural height. If he gets his shoulder involved, it can lift you and do some elevation things. Jon was doing that just to change, just to get close. He was just avoiding the strikes. He was waiting for Ciryl to move. He was going to come back in. He was going to dip. He was going to go to an elbow. He didn't even mean for it to be a takedown. I bring that to you because to look at that match and go, wow, what a comeback, that would be fair. Whoa, the guy's never been in the division. The guy sat out for 3 years. And by the way, those aren't 3 good years. They're 3 years of hard living. And he came back and captured the championship. That is absolutely amazing. But if you watch the match and you know what you're looking for, there was some deception, which creates for some misconception. I like Jon for the nomination of the ESPY. I do. I think you'd have a hard time explaining to somebody how he got a nod over Adesanya. But I do like it. To win the ESPY, I think, and that's where some of my other points came in. What actually happened that night? Was there actually a conflict? Was there actually resistance? Or was it something else? Before any of you think I'm coming here all high-handed, I'm talking down to Ciryl. How do I know these things? How do I know the fear that he had? How do I know that it paralyzes you? How do I know that you're looking for a way out? Because I fought the son of a bitch.